1240 KFH Wichita, KNSS HD2 Clearwater, and Odyssey Sports Station.
Hey, Wichita, it's Jacob Albrock. Stay right there for the latest breaking in sports talk, Sports Daily, coming up next exclusively on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Hi, I'm Mike Ant with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. NFL owners announcing Tuesday at the annual league meeting they have tabled the vote on the tush push until a later date. However, the NFL did approve to modify the kickoff rule, bringing the dead ball spot to the 35-yard line following a touchback. Now, the league is hoping this change will mean more kickoff returns this upcoming season. NFL owners also approved to apply playoff overtime rules to the regular season, meaning that both teams get to possess the ball. The rules amended to make regular season overtime 10 minutes and not 15. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones stated that he does not feel an urgency to extend Micah Parsons' contract, saying, quote, "I'd rather pay more and get it right than pay less and screw it up." And Patriots owner Robert Kraft announced Bill Parcells will be inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame in 2025. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
I had the worst dream last night. You were in a car crash and the kids and I were on our own. We had to move out of the house because I couldn't afford it anymore.
That's awful, hon.
My brother got life insurance from Ethos and it only took 10 minutes. And he got $2 million in coverage for around $2 a day. It's all online. No medical exam. He just answered a few health questions right from his house.
Ethos, here we come.
Visit ethos.com/sports. Ethos.com/sports.
Sample rate is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy Hump Day. Glad you're here with us on Sports Daily. It is Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester. We are coming to you on KFH over the air. 869-1240 is the number to call there. Max Power has that KFH hotline for us. You can watch us on our video streams, 12 News Connected. You can also leave comments to us on Facebook, YouTube, X if you are watching there. We will get those. And thanks to everybody listening to the podcast right now, as you can leave us voice messages there too that we can get to. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. It's a Wednesday. Shocker fans not too thrilled this morning. We'll get into the Corey Washington news as we make our way through. We will get into the Royals last night, lack of offense ailing them. Shreyas Laddha is going to join us in the next hour. We'll get the latest on the KU portal. I think they've become one of the more interesting portal teams across the country, honestly. So we'll get the very latest there. What are the chances Badunga comes back? What's some of the early noise? What's Bill Self looking for? We'll get into all of that as well throughout the show today. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Man, it's a jam-packed show today. You're going through that rundown, and there's a lot to get to on the program. So looking forward to getting right into it.
Yeah, it's it's a fun time of year as we get ready and we hone in on that Final Four. We've got coaching news still as Maryland replaces their coach with Buzz Williams, who now A&M's looking for a coach, and it never really ends in the cycle of movement between players, coaches, whatever it is. And Wichita State was dealt a tough blow yesterday. Corey Washington's gone, and we'll get into. I want to give us this is a shorter segment, so we'll do this next segment. But that was a major, major bummer yesterday, for sure. There's no question about it. I held out hope that was the one. So, Shocker fans, be ready. You can join into that. our pop culture loses a big one here this morning as I'm seeing Tommy kind of off the top. Val Kilmer died last night, 65 years old. Some of the all-time great characters that we have in cinema, whether it be Top Gun, for me, probably Tombstone, the original, not the original, but sort of when Batman kind of got a little edgier. But Val Kilmer, that's a tough one. Val Kilmer was Val Kilmer was Top Gun, wasn't he?
I guess I didn't remember he was in Top Gun. But yeah, you're right. He was Goose in Top Gun. I'm thinking of like Batman, and I'm thinking of Doc Holliday and Tombstone, and there were really, really, really great roles that Val Kilmer played over the years, and yeah, I mean, he was a powerhouse of an actor for sure. So yeah, major loss.
Yeah, I think of all of those great roles, man, I'm not sure which way I know he struggled, and it was a big deal for him to get in the Top Gun remake. He's had some health issues. I think Tombstone is it for me, probably. I think Tombstone is it for me, the most memorable.
Yeah, I'd probably say
it's hard to not be Batman, though. I mean, those Batman movies kind of changed the way we look at Batman.
But as much due respect to Val Kilmer as possible, he wasn't the best Batman.
No,
he was a good Batman, but he wasn't the best
Batman.
I mean,
Christian Bale.
Well, he was no Michael Keaton. I mean, Michael Keaton originated that,
he was
right?
Jim Morrison, okay?
Well, I get it, but I think that he was a good Batman. He was better than George Clooney. I can say that.
I'm better than George.
Yeah,
You're better
he
than
was
George
better than
Clooney.
George Clooney as Batman. That's for sure. But for me, it was Doc Holliday. There was nobody else that could play that role in Tombstone. What a fantastic movie. For me, that's what it is.
Oh man, Val Kilmer, he was Batman Forever when he did Batman. It was the Mr. Freeze, and was it just Mr. Freeze, or that one was with the Penguin too? Or no, Mr. Freeze and Uma Thurman was Poison Ivy. That was a good Batman. He did a good Batman.
He was fine. It was fine. It wasn't the best, but it was fine.
Yeah. No, it's Doc Holliday. It's Doc. I think most people would probably tell you it's Top Gun, but I'd tell you I also would tell you it's Tombstone and Doc Holliday. That is an all-time character. Just with one-liners all over the place. You hate seeing stuff like that. I know he had struggle, but that happened overnight. And then we had sounds like we had some pretty good tornadoes after everybody went to bed last night. I think avoiding a lot of populated areas. I hope. We always got to wait till the sun comes up for stuff like that. But kind of avoided danger here in the metro area, but you go just a little bit outside of the metro, and those storms we were worried about yesterday did produce some gnarly weather. So get ready for that time of year, everybody, because it's here. And it feels too early to me. I feel like April 2nd. I'm like, we're supposed to be ready for tornadoes. Yeah, we're supposed to be looking at the flowers right now. Like that's supposed to come just a little bit later. Maybe not though, but we'll kind of take the rain however we can get it, honestly.
Yeah, you got to be ready for that kind of weather anytime, this time of year.
Right. Yeah.
We've had tornadoes in March, we've had tornadoes in February. Like, it happens all the time. I don't know, there was a part of me, and I know that you never want to see tornadoes and things like that, but I'm watching coverage last night. I stayed up too late watching coverage.
Yeah, you're a weather nerd.
I'm a weather guy. I wanted to be a meteorologist when I was a kid. So I was, checking in on all the coverage and all of that. And I went to bed right around the time there were reports of a tornado around Salina. And fortunately, it looks like there wasn't, any kind of damage or anything major there. But it's that time of year, man. I'm a little bit excited for it. I love the storm season. I think it's a lot of fun. It's exciting, until it starts to get really bad. And then, you never want that.
Yeah, you never want tornadoes, but we need the rain, and this is kind of how we get it. It's been crazy weather all over the place. We've avoided some bad stuff, but it honestly, and the stations here at Odyssey and of course 12 News, just kind of be aware a little bit. Just have your apps and you'd be tuning in whatever way you can, because the only thing that gets you into trouble is if you're not prepared. So just be prepared and be ready. Last night, sort of a little appetizer for that time of year where we got to be on our toes. Again, Shreyas Laddha is going to come in. No news is good news, I think, with Flory Badunga. We'll see what happens with the rest of the roster. And Wichita State, Man, I'm so bummed out by Corey Washington. You can chime in on that, Shocker fans. I know there's a lot of Shocker fans out there disappointed in that today. Sky is falling a little bit, perhaps. I think that's warranted to some degree. But that can be done in the next segment because we'll take your calls on it. We'll take your comments on it. I've had some messages, but we'll dig in as Corey Washington goes into the portal for the Shockers, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. What's up, Tommy?
Well, I'm going to be a little contrarian here, and we'll talk about it in the next segment. I don't think the sky is falling. I've thought about this a lot since yesterday, and I may have a little bit of a different take than you do on this. And so I'm looking forward to talking about that. And by the way, real quick, Flory Badunga, I think no news is no news. Like, no news doesn't mean good news. I don't think Flory Badunga is coming back. From everything I've read and heard, I think he's out. I think he's gone. It's unlikely he'll be back, in my opinion. So I think no news is no news.
We'll go with Shreyas Laddha on that. And the only reason I'm saying that is a gut feeling. I have no sources on that, but we'll have it. Thanks to Prairie Fire Coffee for keeping us fueled up this morning. If we were staying up too late watching the weather, a lot of us were. We're coming right back. We'll talk Shockers in the portal next.
"66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust." Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20-plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
what is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... Oh! It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Page.
All right, welcome back in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Glad to have you here with us. You want to win some HTO, you can do that right now by texting the keyword T to 20357. That's TEA to 20357. Get you a free cup of iced tea, more than 26 flavors. And while you're in there, try out one of the new refresher drinks. If you're into the energy drink craze right now, 3 new ones just rolled out at HTO, and they're pretty tasty. But you can check those out. Get your free cup of tea. Try the refreshers at either East Wichita, West Wichita, or Derby. Good luck, everybody, in that contest. Welcome back in. All right, Tommy. Shockers lose Corey Washington. Always a possibility. It's not just that they lose Corey Washington. It's that they lose Corey Washington, Quincy Ballard, and every meaningful starter on the roster. So it is a total reset now for Wichita State. Glass half full. Good news. That group of players finished 10th and 8th in the American Athletic Conference. Glass half empty. We saw the flashes of this team, and now they have to start over. And in a year of a lot of uncertainty, there's even more now because we know nothing about the roster. We knew nothing about whether this, coach and his staff would be able to get this team where they needed to be. Now they've got to do it with the bare cupboard here. And so I think I would fall into this category, have a whole lot of concern for Shocker basketball today.
Yeah, but I also think that we're going to get as good of an idea on who Paul Mills really is over the next month or two during portal season. I think we're going to get a really good idea on who he is as a coach come next season, because he's got a blank slate, and so I guess I do fall into the glass half full category, because it's there's nobody he's tied to right now. He can build this program in the way that he wants to, and the image that he, has a vision for this Shocker program. Whether or not it's going to be successful, I have no idea. Nobody has any idea, but we'll get as good of an indication as we ever could have throughout this entire process, which I kind of like. I think that's kind of, for me at least, it gives you a really, really good idea, because at the end of the day, if whatever program he builds during this offseason, if it falls on its face, there's nobody else to look at but him and his staff, right? Like you can't throw it back anywhere else. You can't say, well, he inherited this player, or, he was tied to this guy, or this is 100% his team, his roster built from scratch. And so the success or failure of it depends completely on his shoulders. And I kind of like that entering year 3 of the Paul Mills era.
That team last year was his team. I mean, the whole message we were given is retention, right? With the strength of NIL and everything else was the retention aspect of that roster, right? They were able to bring them all back, which meant they wanted to bring them all back. And now the retention piece isn't there. I guess, right? Like now they're not retaining players. So for me, like I look at it and I'm like, what does that say about the state of Wichita State's NIL situation? Corey Washington didn't immediately jump in the portal, right? So my guess is they had a chance to keep him around. He can't have not liked his role on the team. Now, whether he wants to play and try to win a title and do those things, that's the tough part. I get that. But what you'll see here, like at least if you get him back, it tells you two things. They still have the ability to retain good players because remember, they lost. The one player they didn't retain was their best player from a year ago, Colby Rogers. So for a billion off seasons now, they have not been able to retain their best players. They retained everybody else. So they're like, okay, that's at least a start. And then they don't play very well. And now, like, what is the start? If you can't retain your best player now 2 years in a row, where do you start? You've got to go find
look,
best player.
I think you're overemphasizing the importance of retention. You said it. The proof is in the pudding. The team with the retentions finished 10th and 8th in the American. And, so that was with retention outside of their best players, right? Like outside of Colby Rogers and, potentially now Corey Washington. Like the team finished not where they needed to in the conference. I think the other thing too, that is kind of being glossed over a little bit in this news. Colby Washington was good last year for the Shockers, but is Colby Washington a foundational Corey Washington? I was thinking Colby Rogers. Corey Washington was good last year for the Shockers, but is Corey Washington a foundational cornerstone piece to build a program around? And I don't think we know the answer to that. And we won't know the answer to that. But I wonder if it's out of necessity. Like he was the only guy that the Shockers potentially had coming back, after the Quincy Ballard news and all the graduations and all of that. It was going to probably have to be, it was going to be Corey Washington or bust, right? And so, but I don't think anybody ever asked the question, do they want to build a team around him? Like he was.
Yeah, I think so. Versatility, 14-7 last year I think
he was good. Yeah, he was good.
He was
but
because Tommy, like of the names floating out there on the roster or being flirted with, have you heard anybody better? Because I haven't.
I know that there are better players in the portal. Now, whether or not they're going to be able to get them, I have no idea. That's going to be the question mark. But it could have very well.
What I'm saying is,
what
I'm saying is, if they can't keep Corey Washington, who is at whatever level you think he is, what makes you think they'll be able to go get somebody better than Corey Washington?
And that's where the chops of Paul Mills and his staff, it's really going to be tested this offseason. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it or not, but I don't think we can just gloss over the scenario. Again, I don't know how likely it is. It may be very unlikely, but I think that there probably is a scenario where maybe there was a thought of like, you know what, like he was good last year for us, but I don't know if he's a cornerstone piece that we build around, and so maybe we just want it. Maybe it's better for us, we feel like, to have a completely clean slate and to build the program in our own image the way that we want to. Now, if there had been one or two other players that were going to be returning this year alongside Corey Washington, then I think it becomes a little bit easier to say, you know what, let's keep the nucleus of this team together. We've got Quincy Ballard and Corey Washington, or we've got Quincy Ballard, Corey Washington, and somebody else. Like if you're only replacing a couple of pieces, maybe it's just better to rip the Band-Aid completely off and say, you know what, let's just go ahead and start from scratch. Because the team that we trotted out there last year finished 8th. The year before that finished 10th. And we were able to retain a good majority of the pieces outside of a couple here and there, like Colby Rogers. But maybe it was a conversation where it was like, hey, maybe we're going to be better served if we can just totally have a clean slate, a blank canvas, start from scratch and build the team the way we want to.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I don't think we don't
know.
Well, but there's no indication that they'll be able to do it. So like they have not done that in the portal ever, right? It's only been about trying to retain. They've never been able to go get, at least based on the production of the prior year, at the level of basketball. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to go take a bunch of high major type players and put them together and hope something sticks.
And one thing I think they're doing, and that they're going to have to do, and I know you love playing this game, and I mean this like genuinely. You like playing the floor ceiling game, right?
Yes.
Like, and that's totally fine. I think that what this move does when you've got a complete unknown roster, that floor and that ceiling, now that Corey Washington is gone, is all over the place. Like the floor is as low as it can go. The ceiling is probably fairly high. We don't know. Like there's literally no way that we could know that right now. So the floor and ceiling are wildly different.
Right. And that's the problem.
If they had retained Corey Washington, at that point, like you're returning a guy that was, 14-7 type player. You still have to replace a bunch of production. The team finished 8th in the I know, but you have to replace a lot of production, right? Just in general. They finished 8th in the conference last year. And I think that if you're replacing everybody but Corey Washington, it's harder to be able to say, well, yeah, I think they're going to be top 3 in the conference or what. Like, I think it's going to be more like probably 6th or 7th. Like, I think that if you're able to like replace the entire thing, they could be great. I have no idea. You have no idea.
Well, if they bring back Washington and Ballard, let's say, because Ballard's included in this too. Yes, I think you could have been reasonable based on what else they did to see them as a top 5, let's call it, team in the AAC. I don't say any world where they're a top 5 team in the AAC right now. Now that doesn't mean they can't play into that. That doesn't mean that they can't play into that. It doesn't mean that's not what I don't mean. I just mean like based on what we've seen in recent years through this process, there is no realistic combination of players they're going to put together and walk into next year and say, oh yeah, that looks like a top 5 team. We won't know. And so I asked this question yesterday, and this is where it falls for me.
I'm not sure that that's accurate, but I mean,
how is that not accurate? Who are they going to go get? Who do you think they're actually going to go get?
I don't know, but I think a collection of players that are, potentially high pedigree. I don't know. And this is where, I mean, remember, we didn't make this up. Paul Mills called himself Portal Paul, right? Like he called himself working that portal. Like you call yourself that, you start to set some expectations that you can go and work that portal and you can go and get high caliber players to play for your program. We didn't give him that nickname. He gave himself that nickname. Okay, now you've got to back it up. And whether or not he can, I don't know. But I actually kind of like the challenge. I like the challenge of, all right, Portal Paul, do your thing. Like you can go get high caliber players from what you've said. Like go and do it. Go and make it happen. And I think that if he's able to do that, then I wouldn't have any issue. And I mean, I'm going to reserve judgment until we know that the makeup of the roster. But I'm not going to totally close the door right now on April 2nd saying that this team has no shot in the American.
Well, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that either.
You're just saying that there's no you.
I'm saying I would have liked their chances a whole lot more with Corey Washington and Quincy Ballard. I will say
that this team walks into conference play next year to be a top 5 team. Didn't you just say that?
No. I'm saying there's no chance we can see the roster and be like, yep, that's a top 5 roster. That's what I'm saying.
Any way that we could have done that had Corey Washington returned or not. Like
Washington and Ballard, 2 all-conference type players? Yeah, sure.
Ballard's been in the portal for over a week now. I'm talking about Corey Washington.
I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at everything.
There had been this hope. There had been this hope built around, okay, we can build this program with Corey Washington as the foundational piece. Let's hold out hope that he returns, whatever. I still think if you're replacing 80% of the starting lineup, even if Washington does come back, there's no way that you can sit there and say that the roster that he's going to put together can be a top 5 team in the conference. We don't know that with or without Corey Washington. So I think that the question then becomes, is it better to just rip the Band-Aid off and start completely from scratch than returning Corey Washington out of necessity?
Okay. Let's go to KU and use that same logic. Is it better that Bill Self has a clean roster? Would it have been better for him to keep Flory Badunga, who barely played and was nowhere near as productive as Corey Washington in a season last year?
Well, I think it's different because you're bringing in a guy in Darren Peterson who can play alongside a guy like Flory Badunga. I think that's a bigger impact for KU than I think Corey Washington leaving Wichita State is.
I think it's the same logic, though, and it doesn't really matter. It just, for me, the hardest part about all of this is like, how do we set expectations in a season? You know, this would be different if this was This would be different if this was year 1 for Paul Mills. It's not. It's year 3. They finished 10th and they finished 8th in the league. How now do we evaluate correctly what he can do if the vast majority of what happens next year is based on rebuilding a roster? So,
but that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it is all over the country. That's the way it is in college basketball in general.
It wasn't the way it was. Listen, it wasn't the way it was at Wichita State last year. They retained almost everybody last year.
Except for their best player. They didn't retain their best player.
Right. But they retained a large, but now they've returned nobody. Right. So we're being told that
you're acting like there's this major. You're acting like there's this major exodus of players. They've lost 2 guys. It wasn't like they had 6 or 7 guys leave the program. They graduated a bunch of people. They've lost.
Well, I know, but they lost the only 2 eligible players.
Okay, great. But like, it's not like the year that Greg Marshall lost like 8 guys from the program. Like, there wasn't that kind of panic then about that. Like, Paul Mills has lost 2 players. And yeah, they're 2 very consequential players. They're 2 starters. Like, don't get me wrong, I get it. But like, it's not like there was a major, like, I don't look at it as like, man, there's something wrong with the program. They're losing all their players. The majority of the guys graduated. Like, they have no eligibility left. You know, like, there were 2 players that you could look at. And as of right now, he's not returning either one of them. But I think you ask about how do you evaluate? I think you have to evaluate it. And the only way we can evaluate it during the offseason is, what is he able to do in the portal? And while we won't know until they actually play games how it translates to wins or losses, I think you can at least look on paper and say, okay, this guy did this at his last school. This guy has this kind of pedigree. This guy, we can probably set expectations that he can do this. Like, I think that's literally all you can do. And is that Paul Mills' fault? No, that's just the way that college basketball is. Like, we cannot blame Paul Mills for potentially, like, for not being able to have expectations on this team. I don't think we can blame him for that. At the end of the day, all we can do is go and evaluate the players that he's able to get in the portal. That's it.
I'm not trying to blame Paul Mills for anything. I'm trying to know if he's the coach for this program that has now been irrelevant.
Do you not think that that's going to be the best way to evaluate him as a coach, is how he can build a team and a program from scratch? There's literally nobody else you can fall back on. If this roster doesn't work out this season, who else can you blame that on but Paul Mills? Like,
right,
really,
no,
like,
I get it. Right here,
that's the greatest way to be able to figure out and evaluate the success of a coach.
The status of the program is not in good shape. Rick says Wichita State's a feeder school. Any good players they get will leave. I don't think that's entirely true, but I think that's a problem for the fan base. I think that's a problem for the feel of the program. Wichita State shouldn't be that kind of school. Wichita State should be doing what Creighton does, what Memphis does, right? Wichita State should be doing what a lot of Big East schools do. We know because we've seen that from this program in the past. So if Paul Mills and his staff sat there and said, you know what, we're going to be better off using the money we would have used for Corey Washington if we had enough, and who knows, to go get other players, challenge accepted, go do it. But I'm telling you on April 2nd that I think this team would have been better served if they went into next year with Corey Washington. And they'd have been better served, especially if they went in with Corey Washington and Quincy Ballard.
So you might be right about that.
On April 2nd, that's my opinion, is that I'd have rather had Corey Washington.
Yeah, you might be right about that. But at the end of the day, Corey Washington or not, there was going to be a significant Corey Washington or not, there was going to be a significant amount of rebuilding, right? They were still going to have to go out and get a tremendous amount of players and try to replace.
He is Paul Mills' guy, by the way. He didn't inherit Corey Washington. He brought him in last year.
Sure. I just think the question then becomes like, and we don't know the internal conversations. I mentioned this before. Are you comfortable building a team around him, or is it better to just start from scratch? And I think that comes into play. I think that, and maybe that was their intention. Maybe the intention was, we want to build around Corey Washington, and Washington decided not to stay for whatever reason. That could very well have been the case. We don't know the internal conversations. But what I'm saying is, I'm not willing to close the door on the scenario, as unlikely as it may be, that maybe it was a mutual thing. Maybe the coaching staff was like, look, like we kind of just want to build a team from scratch. Like we want to go and start completely from ground zero and build up a program the way that we want to. That may have been unlikely. That may not have happened. I'm sure that a 14-7 type guy that was a second team all conference player, you probably did want to keep. But I'm just saying, like, maybe they're going to be better served building a roster totally from scratch.
Could be, because you just got to be better than 8th place in the league. I mean, is that the expectation? Maybe it is. I hate that expectation if it is, but maybe it is. We'll come back. We can continue this discussion. We'll have Shreyas Laddha talking KU portal news as well. It's that time of year. Portal talk. We'll be right back.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Back, everybody. It is Sports Daily. We are digesting the news of yesterday evening that Corey Washington is also leaving the Shockers. It leaves, but possibly with a waiver, Mate Bosniak, and as far as players who played meaningful minutes last year, of course, there are some young players that we know a little bit about that haven't really played yet, and then a junior college player coming in and some other guys in a recruiting class. It'd be young if they if they don't bring anybody in. Let's go to Roland on the KFH hotline. Welcome in, Roland. What's up?
Hey, how you guys doing, man? I'm thoroughly enjoying the conversation. I just wanted to add in my 2 little cents there. I think the aspect that sometimes gets overlapped is just the fact of the allure of the American Conference. How many guys want to come in and play against the likes of, those guys, with kind of, Memphis being the top dog right now and teams along that line. Whereas, most coaches, they send out this schedule and it's a big part of recruiting nowadays. Like, hey, we're going to play some dudes and they're going to come in and, we're going to represent the university as well as the community. And, trying to get guys to buy into that seems to be a tough task almost now. Without that NIL package and the backing, sometimes the narrative destroys recruiting. And I love what Coach Mills is trying to do, and he's trying to build, and he's trying to present. I know that even now they have a guy in town, but the narrative will forever be, how come when the Pac-10 came calling, when B12 came calling, and they told you what you needed, and that was football and bringing in more, sides of sports on the women's side, that she declined. Whereas we all know if Wichita State was in a different conference, recruiting would be ridiculously good.
We lost you right there at the end, Roland, but your point is good, and we appreciate the call. Look, you got to remember what the American was when those things were happening. It included Cincinnati and Houston and UCF and UConn and some really great programs. When the American was joined in 2017, it was the next best league. That you got to remember that first. Wichita State adding football, I think about that now with revenue sharing and everything else that would go into it. I think it'd be a disaster, maybe a nightmare financially for the Shockers. I don't want to, and your point is good on recruiting to the American, but right now that's not an excuse for Memphis. They have football. Everybody else has football. It's not an excuse for Memphis. UAB's been pretty consistently good. FAU's been pretty consistently good. North Texas is now consistently good. But Wichita State's, and maybe my expectations are unfair, but I've only been here 11 years or whatever, and I know what it can be. And I can't sit and watch Colorado State make tournaments in 22, 24, 25, watch San Diego State essentially make the tournament every year, watch teams out of the Mountain West, watch other teams out of the AAC, and then on the flip side, watch other schools who don't have football in the Big East, let's say, or a team like St. Mary's, and see those teams get in consistently.
How about Drake?
And not say
How about what Drake has done the last couple of years in the Valley?
Yes.
In the Valley.
So, like, Wichita State used to beat up on Drake in the Valley. Okay. Yeah. Like, so I don't like any of those excuses. And I'm not saying, Roland, that you're making excuses. Your point is good, that in that it is harder to recruit into the American than it used to be. I don't disagree with that. My point is, there is no reason Wichita State shouldn't be doing the same things success-wise as all these other schools are doing. They've all got to deal with roster turnover, with the exception of probably Memphis, of those schools I just listed. They deal with it every year just like the Shockers do, yet they succeed. So what is it? Is it an NIL issue still? We know it was when Paul Mills walked in the door. We saw last year that had certainly got better. And to Tommy's point in the last segment, maybe it is still good, and that funding is still good, and they can now use all of those dollars to go completely rebuild a roster. But what's hard for me is in one season, we're told retention, look at the retention, this means everything. But then in the next, the retention goes out the door. You didn't retain your two best players. And it's like, okay, well, now it's not retention. Now it's going to be. So which is it? And what I think we're just like, we're taking all these turns and grasping for straws, and like we have nothing to hold on to. And I'm not saying it's not going to work next year. I'm not saying that at all. How could we know? What I'm saying is it's impossible for a fan base to come in with any expectation right now because the success hasn't been there. And these off seasons all kind of look different from each other. Shocker fans are used to the Shockers losing their best players. That's been happening for a little while, whether it be Council or whether it be Rogers, like whoever it is. Now it's, Corey Washington, I guess, fits into that. Like they're used to that. And most programs should be used to that. But what is the foundation of the program right now? That's what, I don't know. I don't even know. Like you go in with some of these places that we just rattled off, Drake and San Diego State and all these teams that are playing in the non-Power 4 leagues that consistently get in. And it doesn't really matter what they do. You just kind of feel like they're going to be there in the end, right? We're nowhere near. And the Shockers used to be that way, not even that long ago. Now it's like, I don't like, what do I expect out of the Shockers? I don't expect anything. I have no idea.
Yeah. And look, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that at all. But I think the bottom line is that blame doesn't go on the shoulders of Paul Mills.
I'm not saying it goes on the shoulders of Paul Mills.
I know. I'm just making it very clear. Like, I'm not going to blame him for the state of the way that, let's be honest, mid-major college basketball is today in this world. Like, that's not his fault. He's operating within the confines of the way that just the world is right now in college basketball. And, to your point about like one off season, it's about retention. This off season, it's about the portal, like how it's all different one year to the next. That's just kind of the way that college basketball is in general. Like Bill Self, for the last 2 years, it was about retention. It was about bringing back the big three, the core pieces. And this year, it's about the portal. This offseason, it's about the portal and going in and getting a bunch of new players. Like, I don't think that you can plant your flag into the ground and say, we're going to do it the same way every single year, every single offseason. That's not realistic in today's college basketball world.
No, that's not what I mean. The difference is we know Bill Self has the ability to go get whoever he wants. We don't know that Wichita State has the ability to go get anyone.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know that.
And that's the difference there.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out this offseason.
Yes, we will.
We're going to find out. And there's no other way. Like, you can't hide it. Like, and I think that's what I'm excited about is that, like the story of like the emperor has no clothes. I have no idea if in this case the emperor has clothes. I don't know if Paul Mills is a capable quality coach long-term for this program, but I think we're going to find out in year 3 with the way that he rebuilds this roster in a much larger way than we were able to assess that in years 1 and 2. A couple of other quick points going back to Roland's call that I want to bring up. I was born here in Wichita the same year that Shocker football folded. I've lived my entire life in this city never knowing Shocker football. There's literally never been a single time in my life that I've thought this university in general would be better with football. Sure, I guess it would be fun, but like I've never been like, man, they're really missing out by not having football with this university. On top of that, to your point about revenue sharing, I agree with you. I think it would be a disaster, number one. I think it would be a massive money loser. And I don't think that you can point at a lack of a football program in the conference or even outside of the conference as a reason why you can't get recruits for basketball. And I think it's also important to point out that you don't have to share NIL dollars with the football program. You get the lion's share of those NIL dollars going to your men's basketball program. So for that reason and that reason alone, there should actually be a leg up. There should be an advantage for going out and potentially getting players in the portal because you don't have to share your resources with the football program.
Yeah, it sucks that we don't have this base or this foundation to fall into. And it's a timing thing, and I get it. And like at some point it either has to get better or it has to change. And that just is the reality of the situation, because right now this needs to be, for the university, for the athletics department, for the community, it must be this powerhouse. And we have seen it be that. So how do you get it back to that? So next year, there will be a roster, and it will include a lot of young players and a lot of talented young players, quite frankly, that Wichita State has thrived with over the years. We've mentioned it before. Those guys, those 3-star and that top 150 type range, they've got a handful of those guys coming in next year. Is that a formula that can be successful at all anymore? Not when those guys are freshmen and sophomores. I don't think there's nothing else across the country telling us that is going to be. So then the problem becomes, right? Okay, well, maybe you take your licks this year, but you develop all of those players. But then we get into the situation of, but then they're just going to be gone. So it sucks that it's the situation, but it is the current situation. Nobody else is making excuses. So I refuse to do that for Wichita State. Yeah. You either find a way to win in the system or you don't, because everybody else is dealing with it too. That's it. That's it for me. Okay. Clean slate. I am intrigued to see what they can do, but they had a clean slate essentially a couple of years ago too. And we saw all these new players come in, and they were Mills guys
in year one.
Right.
Of Paul Mills, you saw a complete, almost a complete shift. I mean, Kenny Poto come back? Like Kenny Poto returned and played that first year for Paul Mills.
But that
Ballard,
and that complete reset was led to a 10th place finish in the American, and then they retained him, and that led to an 8th place finish in the American. So, okay, let's see what another reset does. But I'm telling you right now, if they don't finish. I mean, this is my problem. What do I even say? How do I even complete that sentence? What is a successful season next year? How do we evaluate next year and be like, yep, you know what? That's progress. That's success.
But you're not wrong in that, but whose fault is that? Put the blame where the blame is due. I don't think that that's Paul Mills's fault. That's the system in which he's operating.
But he's asked to operate in that system.
The best case scenario, the absolute best case scenario, was that he was going to have to replace 60% of his starting lineup. That was the absolute best case scenario. So I think it would have been nearly impossible to set an expectation, even if Ballard and Washington came back. So I think that's unfair to be able to say
look, here, I will not make roster turnover an excuse for a coach in today's college basketball. Let me just say it that way. It's not an excuse. They don't. If they're not successful next year, you have to do something to be successful. And I will find out. I hope that some names come in, and they're just names at this point to us, that you're like, heck yeah, let's go. This looks good. And then but either way, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to sit there next year if they finish 8th place again and be like, yeah, but they had to return. They had to turn over a bunch of the roster. That's not going to be good enough for me. Maybe it is for some people, but it's not for me. And I don't think it is for most Shocker fans. People are ready to win. 10th, 8th, it's time now to win. And we'll see how challenging it is. I think it got more challenging without these guys. Ball's in Paul Mills and his staff's court. Go get some players. We'll come back in hour number 2. We'll have Shreyas Laddha in to talk KU hoops. We'll talk a little Royals baseball as well. Don't go away. More Sports Daily coming right up.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Sports Daily. How are you out there? Another hour here. We've been talking a lot of shockers in the first hour. If you missed any of it, you can go back and listen on the Odyssey app. Also coming today on that app, Royals and Shocker Baseball here on KFH and the app. The Royals looking for a series win here. That game starts at noon. At 5:45, you get a little Shocker Baseball hosting K-State. Pretty cool. Tune in to 97.5 and 1240, KFHradio.com, or download the free Odyssey app and just search for KFH. A lot of good stuff there. Big opportunity for Shocker Baseball. K-State's good. They're top 25 team right now. They look pretty good. We'll see if Wichita State, maybe that can be a spark for them. And the Royals will go at noon trying to win that series. We'll have more on the Royals in our next segment. Real quick, Tommy, in this shorter segment, the NFL did not do away with the tush push yet, at least, but they did make some rule changes that we will take a look at here for next year. The overtime rule might be the most notable. They're basically changing it to mirror the postseason, in which both teams are guaranteed a possession. I think they're shrinking the amount of time down to 10 minutes. No issues on my end for that. I hate the coin flip deciding things. The field goal thing was better. But yeah, just give them each a possession. And then if a team on the second score wants to go for two, go for two. If not, play for a tie. I mean, whatever. Like it makes some sense, but it's the right thing to do. You can't have games happen where teams don't touch the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would love to eventually get to the point to where there's no chance for a tie. I hate ties in football when we get to that point. I'm not a fan of that because I feel like everybody leaves disappointed. And that's ultimately not what the league wants and not what the teams want. So I would love to get to that point. I mean, I know that there's a little bit of absurdity about the way that college football does it, where like they can go 8 overtimes or whatever. Like I know it gets kind of wild and crazy, and I don't think the NFL is going to go that far, but I do actually kind of like that model.
I do too.
Because at least you're going to get a win. Like one team is going to definitively win the game.
Yeah.
And I would like to eventually see the NFL get to that point. But I do agree with you. I think this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know that I'd want to, as much as I enjoy the college football thing, the NFL is very protective of the speed in which its games are played. And I do like that. I think their broadcast windows are too important to them to do what college football does. So, if I guess if a game ends in a tie, it ends in a tie. I'm probably fine with that. Let's see this play out. And how many games actually end in ties because of it, I would imagine more will, but we'll see if it's really that impactful. But that's one of them. Another one I think that is moderately impactful to and how we take in the game is replay assist. So what's happening with replay assist now is they can use it for more things. Basically, all the personal fouls, they can go back and give a quick replay assist. Like if there's a face mask or a horse collar or whatever called on the field, but it didn't actually happen, replay assist can quickly say, nope, missed that one. That was not a face mask. And then they move on with their lives. I personally, and let me finish, I guess. What they cannot do is go back and retroactively throw a flag. So it does not solve the issues we saw at the end of what felt like 5 or 6 games this year where there were face mask penalties that were not called. It doesn't do that. What I think it could do is give the officials probably more courage to just throw the flag if there's any question, because they know in the back of their head it can be corrected. So we'll probably see some of that. I am in general a big proponent of replay assist. I think it's much faster, and I think it does ultimately, like at the end of the day, we should all be striving to get the calls right. I think this helps us get the calls right, but it does it without having the long review process. Somebody can look at it just like we do at home and be like, yeah, no, that was not a penalty.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I have a concern about with that is there are probably going to be significantly more stoppages in play. And whether or not they last longer or they're shorter, like whatever, that's fine if it doesn't take quite as long to get it right. I'm on board with that. But I wonder if we're going to see the frequency of stoppages of plays, because you mentioned like the courage of the officials to just throw the flag. Well, then we might as well just have throw it on every single play, because there are penalties that are committed every single play. So why don't we just run a play and then have somebody review each and every play before you do the next one, and then be able to say, yeah, there was a penalty there, that player did that. Because then you're still leaving it up to a judgment call at that point.
I think, and I could be not remembering this correctly, I'm pretty sure most of the replay assist, though, happens like before we even get to the official actually, like the white hat actually making the call. Like most of the time, and maybe it's not always, but sometimes at least, you see the white hat get up and get ready to make the call and say replay assist. No, there is no face mask on that play. The call of face mask, replay assist, we don't have it, and they just move on. So I'm hopeful that we don't even get to a like review process in this, like that it's that fast. Like they throw a flag, they thought they saw a horse collar. Oh no, wait, he didn't actually have him on the horse collar before he can even go say personal foul. Like he's like, yep, replay assist showed us that's not a horse collar.
I hope
flag.
So. I
think it will. Now there may be some where it's like we really got to look at this, but I think the intent is probably just to solve the obvious ones here.
Well, and I know it's apples and oranges, to compare the two sports, but I mean the review process in college basketball is long and laborious and frustrating every single time. Take forever for referees to look at the film, the footage, and then be able to make a judgment call based off of it. So hopefully what they're doing in the NFL will speed things up, because I think that's the biggest thing. Like, yeah, you want every call to be right. You want to get it all correct, but you also need to do it in a timely fashion. You got to go quick, because you don't want to lose the rhythm. You don't want to lose, the eyeballs. You don't want to lose all of that if you're stopping down after every single play to make sure that it was correct.
Yeah, I agree. That's not good. And that's why you're not going to see the NFL retroactively call penalties. It's the number one reason. I'm sure they would love to do it, but there's no way to do that quickly. So I don't know that we'll ever see that. The other one is on kickoffs, Tommy. Instead of the 30, they'll move it to the 35. I've seen this narrative that that's going to greatly change how teams strategize. I don't know that I think 5 more yards is actually going to do that. Like they already moved it from the 20 to the 30, and it had like no impact. Still nobody was kicking off. I don't think sliding it up another 5 yards is going to now all of a sudden make teams do. That's what the NFL wants, kickoffs. And they're exciting, and I get it, and I want them too. But I think you got to go even bigger than the 35. Like if you really want players to return kicks, like if I'm let's say you're the special teams coach and they have Dante Hall back there, you're giving it to the Chiefs at the 35 every time, right? Like if there's a good return man back there, you're not kicking them the ball ever. So unless you told me it was coming out to like the 45 where they got to gain 10 yards to a field goal, and then it's like, okay, fine, maybe. But I don't know that they're going to get the desired effect here. There is a thought because of, percentages and, 75% return rate, the league's internal data shows if it's moved to the 35. I'll bet you that it's not much. I bet this doesn't do much at all.
Yeah, I think it's inconsequential to me. I don't have a strong preference on it one way or another. With all the changes in the rule, the different kickoff rules going into last season, I didn't find myself at any point during the season feeling strongly about it one way or another.
Me
It didn't totally impact the game. It didn't impact my viewing experience. I don't think it really, maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think it really overly impacted games one way or the other. So really it's inconsequential to me. So I guess if they start making changes to where then it becomes consequential, to where you actually start seeing outcomes of games being different or strategy needing to be implemented by special teams units and all of that, then at that point, yeah, I'm going to perk up and pay more attention to it. But as of right now, it's kind of inconsequential.
Well, I mean, more kick returns would make it more consequential, right? And that's the goal. And I appreciate them trying to do that because it is this exciting play that everybody likes to see, but they haven't been able to find the way to make teams strategically decide it's better for us to kick to that person than just know that they're going to start on the 35. And so I don't think the 35 will be all that different from the 30. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong because I want to see more kick returns. And I don't fault the league for approaching it exactly the way that they've approached it either. Like I have absolutely no issue with it. I think they're trying, but they don't want to also be outrageous and like give the team the ball at the 45-yard line or whatever it is. So we'll see what happens. I hope it does change the strategy to some degree. Those are the three big ones. And then, of course, no tush push. They can flex out a little easier some Thursday night football. There was no headway or anything because it would have to be collectively bargained on an 18-game schedule, even though we all know that's coming. And I think it'll be better for the league, the double bye 18-game week. So that was pretty much it out of league. And Andy Reid still has his mustache in a great April Fool's joke by the Chiefs.
That was because it got me. I saw the picture.
It did. And then when it got you and you sent it to me, it got me.
Andy Reid, it
so much so that like I'm following. I'm like, no, Tommy, look, Jay Glazer tweeted a video. His mustache is fine. Like that entire process, it never registered to me that was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
Well played, Chiefs.
Very well done.
All right. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Royals. We've got Shreyas Laddha in to talk KU in just a little bit as well. Don't go away. More Sports Daily coming right back.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
we investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken. Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is Sports Daily here on KFH. Glad to be with you. Thanks for tuning in as well on our video streams. 12 News Connected on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, all the different ways you take in the show. We appreciate you. I'd appreciate your insight. If you want to go back and listen to any of the conversation we had about the Shockers, the state of the program after Corey Washington is now out, you can do that on the Odyssey app. It's all in the first hour. And that'll all be podcasted out for you here soon if you're listening to us live. And if you're listening to us from the future, it should already be there. So glad to have you. Let's talk a little baseball, Tommy. Royals yesterday. They've got day baseball today. The rubber game, don't forget, that you'll be able to hear right here on KFH. I think, when we look at all the things that we're trying to look at early in the year and evaluate, it was good to see Sam Long give him some nice relief innings. We finally got to see Schreiber not ultra effective, but I think mostly we're looking at Michael Lorenzen there, and I thought he was okay. 3 runs, 8 base runners in 5 1/3. You don't like. He did strike out 7 guys. A little dicier than maybe we'd hoped, but not bad if he's going to be your 5th starter. And then, of course, the offense just didn't have a good day, and that's it is what it is.
Yeah, that sort of thing happens. I mean, they scored 11 runs on Monday's game, so backing that up, getting shut out, it balances out at the end of the day. I think that really the only big takeaway for me from the game yesterday was I thought Lorenzen was left in a little bit too long. I think had he been pulled after 5, it might have been, I don't know if it would have been a different outcome overall in the game because, again, the bats really were not coming through at all for Kansas City. But that 6th inning was a struggle. It was it was rough. For Lorenzen to go back out there, getting runners on base and all of that before he was finally pulled. That's the second time that's happened in 5 games for the Royals. It happened on opening day with Cole Reagans, and then it happened yesterday with Michael Lorenzen, where Matt Quatrero leaves his starter in a little bit too long, going into, and in both cases, it was the 6th inning, going into that 6th inning. And on opening day, Reagans couldn't get through the 6th, and yesterday, Lorenzen couldn't get through the 6th. So, it happens once, you can kind of chalk it up. Happens twice in 5 games. I think it bears a little bit of watching.
It does. It's certainly what we don't want, and it's what this team shouldn't be, I don't think, right? Like, this team should be it should not be a feast or famine offense. It shouldn't be. That's what Jonathan India is there to help do, right? And he had another hit. I agree with you. I don't think it's anything to worry about at this point. So I think it's fine. It's not.
I think it bears watching. I think
no. It's a fear. Like, it's a fear going into the year. Like, what you don't want is a streaky. Like, they were pretty streaky last year. You hope that as Witt and Pasquantino get a year older, and you bring in Jonathan India, and you maybe get a return to normalcy for some of the outfielders. Like, what you hope is, yes, it's more consistent. even if that consistency means you don't have 11 runs in one game, which is fine, but like, can you consistently, get to 4, 5, 6 runs? But it's too early. Like, it's too early, I think, to be a concern. But yes, we will watch that because it's something we worried about before the year.
Do you have a concern, by the way, about the pitchers being left in a little bit too long by Cotrero? Is that something to keep our eyes on? Because it's happened twice.
What was his pitch count at? No, because I think
he was getting close to 100 at that point.
Yeah, I no, not yet, because I think their middle relief is still enough of a concern for me that I'm okay with, especially for a guy like Lorenzen, who's been doing this a long time. Yeah, he was at 97 pitches. I'm probably all right with that because honestly, like, even as he was giving up too much traffic and all those things, like, if you told me the other option is Long or Zerpa, I'm probably still going to trust Lorenzen in that spot right now. It was good to see Schreiber get out there. I want to see more from some of the other guys. It kind of lends you. I mean, they were down, whether it was 3-0 or 4-0. Would that have been the spot you wanted to use Daniel Lynch or any of your guys? I mean, that's the other thing. Like, who are the pitchers and what is the strategy when you're trailing at that point of a game? I think that's a really good question. I think that's a really good question. And I don't know that we know the answer to that yet. Until we see stronger outings, though, from some of these middle relief guys, like, I don't think I have a problem with it. I trust Lorenzen more than I trust Zerpa right now.
Even when his pitch count is getting up into triple digits, I mean, I think that becomes the big question. And it happened with Reagans on opening day again. It happened yesterday. And we're not talking about, Matt Cotrero leaving these guys in way too long, but we are talking about you get through 5 innings and it's the start of that 6th inning in both cases where things kind of go off the rails a little bit for both of them.
No, because I want pretty soon for them to be consistently going 100 pitches.
And I just wonder, like, whether we're talking about Zerpa or Long or Schreiber, it's probably a better situation for any one of those guys to come in at the start of a clean inning.
Maybe so.
Than inheriting runners on base after, whether it's Reagans or Lorenzen in either one of these cases, have put runners on base with no outs in the top of the 6th.
Generally speaking, I'll say it this way. Generally speaking, I would trust the Royals starters in the 6th. And this is with, like, let's call it no, we can't call it a tie game, because if they had the lead, I think the strategy may be a little bit different. But in a game where you're trailing, especially, I still trust the starters more. And I'm not a huge pitch count person. I'm more of a, like, labored, and he was laboring for sure. So I would have been fine I was fine either way. Like, I was fine whether they leave him in, or I was fine whether they go to Long, because they were down 3-0, right? It's like, okay, we got to see something
at that point. They were down 2-0,
right?
And
but that wouldn't have been
the game is still in reach at that point.
It would have been a fine situation to use Daniel Lynch for 2 innings, but they used him the night before for 2 innings, so they couldn't do that. But yes, without that option, I was fine running Lorenzen back out there, and I was fine running Reagans back out there in the first game, because I don't think Long and Zerpa are pitching particularly well now anyway. And if those are my options, I'd rather have the starter.
I would love to see what those guys would have been able to do in either situation.
Well, we've seen Zerpa with clean innings. We've seen Long with clean innings.
I'm just saying, like, in those particular situations, if the outcome would have been any different. Zerpa gave up a home run in his first pitch on opening day. So would that have been any different had he come in to start the inning as opposed to inheriting runners? I don't know. That's all hypothetical at this point. But, like, to your point about Lorenzen, he was absolutely laboring. Like, in the 5th inning, he was laboring. And like, I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's probably not a good chance that he's going to be back out in the 6th. And then he was. And then he promptly got runners on base, and he was out of the game. And it's like, man, can we give, if it's going to be, I don't care who it is, Zerpa, Long, Schreiber, whoever, can we give them a clean inning to start, especially knowing that Lorenzen was laboring after 5?
So even through 5 innings and 2 runs allowed, though, like, I'm going Lorenzen there. And it's a personal preference. I would ask it to you this way then, like, by the end of the season, you'd rather see your starter getting through 6 innings, right? It's going to make this team better if your starter's getting through 6 because you feel good about the nails of your 7, 8, 9.
Maybe, but on top of that too, I think the bullpen and it's not just the back end of the bullpen. The bullpen as a whole has, I think, been sort of publicized as a strength of this team. Like, it's a much improved strength of this team. They could have one of the best bullpens in Major League Baseball. So yeah, I mean, ideally, you'd love to have your starter pitch complete games every time, right? Like, that's an ideal situation. But I think that you've got to put them in. If you're going to go to the pen, you've got to put them in good situations. And I love Matt Cottrero, and I think he makes generally good decisions for the most part. I just wish that, and he's probably thinking the same thing. Hindsight being 2020, like thinking I maybe should have gone to the pin both of those times to start the inning rather than letting Reagans and Lorenzen kind of labor their way through.
I would say the same thing that I said after the first series. I think the biggest weakness of this team, and I think it's playing out through a couple of series now, is getting from the 5th to the 7th inning. And I think we just have to continue to watch and see how they handle that. But I don't think that's changed. I think it's been magnified. But we thought that, or at least I did, before the season started. Like, that 7, 8, 9 looks great. How do you get it into the hands of 7, 8, 9? The good news is Daniel Lynch has given them another option there. And that's great. That's better. I think the next best scenario now is the starters. Like, you just hope your starters can get you there and you don't have to use these other guys. And maybe that's as simple as it is, or I don't know. Again, it's early. I did this yesterday on TV. Let's talk about it here for a second. One time through, basically reevaluating the India Singer trade. Man, both those teams got to be real happy. Singer looked fantastic against the Rangers. And I mean, you could not be happier with what India's done in the leadoff spot. So going into yesterday, Tommy, his on base percentage is .500 through whatever it is, through 16 at bats. It was like the early returns for both teams are great, and you hope that continues. Like, I hope Royals fans, and I think 99% do, want Brady Singer to be awesome. But there's always going to be that small contingent that's like, man, you want to feel like you really won this trade, right? And India's awesome and Singer falls flat on his face and be like, oh, look what we did. The reality is, though, if Singer goes to Cincinnati and is really, really good, that I think that strengthens the Royals' ability to trade players, because there's like a trust factor. Oh, they developed this pitcher. He's good. Like, this is good. It's not just a ballpark thing. I think that's great. I think that's a great thing for the Royals. If Singer's awesome, it'll be even just, despite what India does. Now, they may not win the trade, but I think it'll be a good reflection on their system. So I'm glad to see it from Singer. I hope he's great. I like the way he pitches. I like his style. I like his energy. But man, India's been fantastic so far.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but somebody was evaluating Brady Singer's first start, which, by the way, was really good. Didn't he pitch against your Rangers?
Yeah, he shut them down.
Kind of dazzled in his first start.
Yes. In Cincinnati, which is my great fear for him in that bandbox.
But somebody analyzed that start, and apparently I don't know if it was 2 or 3 different pitches than what he ever threw in Kansas City. Like, and I don't know if that's he'd been working on his arsenal during the offseason, if he had the green light to try a couple different things that maybe he didn't get that opportunity to do when he was with the Royals. But that was interesting that he had a couple of different pitches when he threw for Cincinnati a couple days ago compared to what he ever did when he was with the Royals. And I think it's perfectly okay to have both teams feel like the trade is a success. That's the way you kind of want it, right? Like,
it's the way you want it. Not just is it okay, it's good.
You want both teams to feel like they're gaining by making a trade. And the Royals, as we all know, had a clear deficiency at the top of that lineup. And early returns are really, really, really good for Jonathan India. Can he keep up this pace the entire season? I don't know. Time will tell. But at least, that objective of him needing to set the table for guys like Witt, Pasquantino, and Perez, he's absolutely doing that.
He's at an age, I think, as far as the new pitches, like, he's kind of in that window of prime right now. which for pitchers is usually like 26 or 27 until they're like 32. So he's square in that. Singer he's dazzled plenty of times in Kansas City, right? It's Singer's problem is when he's just a little bit off, he becomes very hittable. So we'll see. But yeah, that's good. I just like, I look back at it and I was so terrified of that trade because I am a Brady Singer advocate. And Jonathan India, to me, Jonathan India has been a more disappointing of those two players, and they're so connected in the way they've come up. Like India, to me, was the bigger risk in that trade based on his production. But man, it's been a great early return. Great early return. And I'm so happy for that because it could unlock this offense we've been dreaming about all off season with what and begging for all of last season. Like, what if they could just get somebody on ahead of these guys? Like, what could that mean? And so far, literally perfect for the Singer start. As far as realistic baseball expectations, it has been a perfect start for Jonathan India. And that's
knowing that the issues, and we talked about it all the time last year about how, the offense, would produce when they needed to. For the most part, they were winning games and all of that. But the number of times that they would start a game or start an inning with one out and nobody on for Bobby Witt Jr., like it happened all the time. And you could never set the table for Witt or for Pasquantino or Perez. And just thinking about unlocking a different level of this offense just by, number one, getting somebody on base more ahead of them. And by number two, having Bobby Witt Jr. bat with no outs as opposed to bat with one out or two outs, right? Like that changes the game. And that's exactly why India is there.
Yep. He's doing what he needs to do. So then we look ahead to today. It is a second turn for both aces of these teams. Cole Reagans, Freddie Peralta should be a good one. Well, let's see Reagans get back out there. Reagans was not good in his first outing, but he wasn't bad either.
He was okay. He was all right.
He was all right. And it'd be good to see him be dominant for sure. But it's the second time through. That is a 12-10 first pitch. A lot of day baseball today. So hopefully we get a better outcome from Reagans.
Hey, guess what? My Braves lost again. They're 0-6.
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers are 7-0, I think, or 8-0, something like that.
Pretty good start.
And they're going to lose again today, I'm sure. They're going to go home for their home opener, and they're probably going to be 0-7 for their home opener. That's a great way to welcome the fans back to it.
Who do they get for their home opener at least?
That's a good question. I haven't even really looked that far ahead. Let me look really quick.
The Dodgers are stupid. I mean,
the Marlins. They'll get the Marlins at home.
Who are off to a pretty good start, actually.
Yeah, they're 4-2.
Yeah, the Marlins are off to a 4-2 start. But yeah, look, I think the Braves are going to be okay. They got to score some runs. They have the fewest runs in baseball so far.
Yeah,
they got to score some runs.
You're telling me it's been bad.
The Dodgers are already. And listen, the Padres may be even more impressive than the Dodgers so far. But holy cow, like those two teams look incredible. We have 3 teams in baseball. The Yankees have only played 4 games. The Yankees have only played 4 games and already have a 20-run differential going. The Dodgers and the Padres are already over 20. There may be some, and I don't know what to make of the Yankees yet. Jury's still out. Jury's not out on the Dodgers.
No.
They are going to be really hard to beat in the regular season.
Yeah, they're a juggernaut. There's no way around that. The Braves actually had a lead. They were up 1-0, I think, in the fourth, and I went to bed, and then it fell apart.
Everything's, like they had a lead in the game.
They scored 1 run on a Mookie Betts error. That's the only reason why they got one across.
God, there's not a lot of things more deflating, I'm telling you, than early season bad baseball. Because the season's so long that you're just like, and it's not any better if it comes in the middle of the season either. Like if you have a good team and they go on a stretch where they lose like 7 games and you're just like ready to rip your hair out and do all those things. Baseball is the most emotional sport. Like long term, right? The most emotional sport. I love it so much, but I feel for you. I mean, I've been there, and those stretches like you're dealing with the Braves. Royals fans are just sitting there like, yo, dude, look over here. It's been like the last decade for us. April struggles are hard to swallow for sure. There's no doubt about it. Royals baseball will be heard right here on KFH today, of course, on the Odyssey app. Anyway, that you consume the Kansas fan headquarters, you will get Royals baseball. Coverage begins at 12 o'clock out in Milwaukee. We'll see. All right, when we return, Shreyas Laddha's in. Let's talk KU in the portal. Get the very latest next on Sports Daily.
.66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 83101 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
and inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
FH. And now, digging deeper with the teams you follow, it's another Sports Daily Insider interview on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. It is Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor. We are joined by Shreyas Laddha, our KU insider. You can find his work at the KC Star. You can find his work on X at SHRE98. We appreciate it. It is a time of the year. I don't want to say it's good time of the year. I don't want to say it's a fun time of the year, but it is a time of the year, and it's that portal time, and we all suffer through it together. I think fans suffer through it, coaches suffer through it, administrators suffer through it. It is a time of suffering. KU fans suffering with the potential loss of Flory Badunga. Diggy Coit also jumps in. How much do you get any enjoyment at all, Shreyas, out of following this? I hate it.
Honestly, it's kind of stressful. As somebody who's written probably 15 articles in the last 4 days, tracking down these kids that are Kansas is talking to, very stressful because you're just praying they pick up the phone or text you back. But in a way, as somebody who's competitive, I kind of relish it because anytime I can get a kid on the phone that nobody else has, that's another bit of info I can put out and people are more informed. So it's a little bit of getting the competitive juices going in that sense, but the actual list of trying to figure out who KU is interested in, how much these kids are interested in KU, which kid might enter the portal or might not enter the portal, trying to figure out their state of mind is a very difficult and agonizing process. But it's just part of college basketball, I think, and college sports in general nowadays.
Shreyas, ever since we found out over the weekend that Flory Badunga was entering the portal, for some reason, my counterpart here, Jacob, has this feeling inside him that Flory is coming back, like a gut feeling. And I'm like, man, it's not happening. Like he put a do not contact tag when he entered the portal, like he's going somewhere else. He's done with the program. Can you shed some light at least on what you're hearing from the inside about like what the status is on that?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility that he comes back, but for what it's worth, I talked to Abdi Bashar yesterday, the Monmouth transfer who just met with Bill Self and Jeremy Case, and Floyd was not mentioned once in that call. I asked Abdi if they talked about him at all. He was not. Apparently, they were talking a lot about Darren Peterson and how he can kind of complement him. The Flory thing is very interesting to me because I think it goes a lot of different ways. I think I felt more confident in Kansas before Sunday because I was told by his guardian that they were going to meet with Kansas and Coach Self and his staff. I think Self, kind of flew out to Indiana. I'm not particularly sure how the meeting went because I didn't get the chance to talk to them afterwards, but it's been radio silence from his camp since Sunday. I tried to call on Sunday. They let it go to voicemail. I got a text message. He's not visiting Indiana. And that's all I got. And, it makes me feel a little less enthusiastic that he's coming back to Kansas than I was feeling Saturday, because I was told multiple times that Kansas is not out of this. We're still very much looking at the pact of, Kansas could come back. And I think the big thing they were looking at is obviously, they emphasize it's not an NIL thing, but I definitely think it is a little bit of an NIL thing. They want development for Flory because they want him to really grow his game as he pursues his NBA aspirations. I asked, when is that, is there a timeline on that? They said, no, not particularly, but they feel like right now, more than ever is for him to really grow, develop, enhance his game so he can be an NBA pick. So I do think that's one of the biggest things they're trying to take into consideration. I asked if there were schools that reached out. There was somebody, I was told that, it was a busy day on Saturday and an SEC school reached out, but they didn't, particularly talk to them. But, I'd heard from other sources, and obviously there's some rumors out there. I believe that's Auburn that's been on the Flory tail. So there's a lot going on, and I don't think anyone particularly knows at the moment. I don't know if you guys saw the Auburn reporter reporting basically, well, he could go to Kansas or he could come to Auburn or he could go somewhere else. I'm like, I know it's Hedge City right now, but come on, man, let's make a stand. The way I feel like it's going to be, just my gut feeling is I think he either comes back or he goes to Auburn. But obviously I have no idea, right? Like we're all just making guesses at this point because his camp is gone. Radio silence.
All we can do, well, yeah, if you can't talk to them, which that's an interesting development, is read between the lines. To me, it's always been an NIL thing. I don't know how, if opportunity is the ultimate, and it may be, if opportunity is the ultimate driver, there is not a program historically that provides a better opportunity for a true center than Kansas does. Look at the predecessor that was ahead of Flory Badunga and Hunter Dickinson and what he was able to do. And just go down the line of KU centers. Nobody does it better than Bill Self. He starts all his offenses through his center. How many coaches still do that, right? So that's where I guess it's a gut feel. It's a read between the lines. I think it's more of an NIL thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Kansas, if Bill Self really wants Flory back, will find a way to pay him as much or more than anybody else. And if it truly is an opportunity thing, if his handlers don't see the opportunity at Kansas, then they're doing him a disservice because there is going to be no better opportunity than at Kansas.
I think they're a little worried about the roster flux situation. And obviously, I don't necessarily blame them. Now we're all sitting there waiting on AJ Storr, which is an interesting thing. I've been told somebody associated with the team that he was 50-50 on entering the transfer portal because of the fact that he didn't want to be a guy that's constantly enters the transfer portal. And I wrote this in my roster piece about a week and a half ago. Despite him having a tough season, he was very positive, a good locker room guy. The guys liked him. The coaching staff liked him. So I'm not super surprised, but I am still a little surprised that AJ Storr wasn't one of the guys that entered portal because everyone else has at this point that played last year. But going back to the Flory thing, I obviously, I take everything everybody says in this day and age, even with their name attached to it, with a grain of salt. Because there's so many things that are happening that we don't know or privy to. We're not in these rooms where they're talking about what they want, what they don't want. I absolutely think NIL is a big factor, but I don't think it's the only factor. I think that's the one thing Kansas fans are not understanding. I think there's a real fear from his camp that there's not the right pieces around Flory for him to get to where he wants to be. The worry of the roster flux, the development thing is something they're worried about. And Flory is a very talented player. And from the schools that have been interested in him, pretty much everyone is interested in him. I have a buddy that covers Kentucky. He told me Kentucky's interested in him. I've heard Michigan State is interested in him. Obviously, Indiana's interested in him. So whatever school you want, if you have the money and you're not a mid-major, you're probably interested in Flory. If you're a mid-major, you probably are interested in Flory, but you can't meet the NIL that he needs to get paid. So I think the biggest thing to me with the no contact thing is they probably have a list of schools that they want to sit there, talk to with the agents. The agent thing is a relatively new thing because I had not heard about him having an agent until recently. It could have been something that happened in the last couple of months, but every time I've talked to that camp, it's usually been one of the Guardians or somebody else associated closely with them. It's a tight-knit group.
I think for me, Shreyas, the biggest question now is how does all of this impact Darren Peterson? I mean, clearly this team is going to be built around Peterson. Saw him in action last night, and he dazzled. I mean, he was absolutely incredible, and he's kind of the crown jewel of and potentially the cornerstone of this team next season. It sounded like that he and Bill Self have had a couple conversations about his concern level about the fact that you've got all these players that are leaving. What do you read into where Peterson is at and what the plans are surrounding him with great players?
I mean, if I'm Peterson and you're coming to Kansas and you're getting millions of dollars, my concern level will be low because you trust Bill Self to get the guys you need to get. I think Abdi Bashar said it best to me. I'm not worried about Kansas not getting guys because even the guys they do have, Bill Self will coach them well. It's Kansas, basically was the gist of that quote. And I agree with that sentiment. There's going to be guys, all these mid-major guys or the guys who, UCF or the guys who don't play at blue blood schools. Every time I get on the phone with them, they just rave about Kansas. They rave about Allen Fieldhouse. It almost feels like they're giving me a sales pitch and they're hoping the coaching staff reads it sometimes because, Abdi spent 10 minutes basically talking about Darren Peterson. Obviously a little exaggeration there, but how he could be a complimentary player, how impressed he is with the young fella. Keyshawn Hall talks about Allen Fieldhouse and how great the fans are and how he didn't know what to expect on January 28th and when he dropped 34 on Kansas. It is absolutely still a premier destination. I know it's doom and gloom in Jayhawk Nation right now, but guys, the sentiment of Kansas has not changed just because they had a couple down seasons. They're going to find the guys they need to find. They'll get the guys they need to get. The question you need to ask yourself is the lack of continuity going to be a big thing? And the guys that are coming back, have they developed that at least they have the system down pat?
Yeah, and that's what Badunga was the only guy that really, I guess if Storr comes back, that's interesting. But, look, we all saw the head there, and Peterson is the All-American McDonald's game MVP. Bill Self was always going to have to reset it. If you're a fan who's been frustrated that they've had too much continuity, this is your chance to see what they can do with the new roster. Maybe it's the inverse of what we've seen the last few years where they start so strong and end. It's almost like there's regression. Maybe the expectation right out of the gate should be a little tempered as they build up over the course of a season. I don't know. Shreyas Laddha joining us here on KFH. If Shreyas Laddha gets to take his pick, who is your prize target for Kansas to land in the portal? Not including Flory Badunga.
I like Keyshawn Hall a lot. Guys, we talk about being afraid of guys who just score a ton of mid-majors or not efficient. I think Abdi is a good guy. I think he can have a role on this Kansas team. He could be a complimentary player. But Keyshawn Hall put up 18.5 a game in the Big 12, led the Big 12 in scoring. I think he really likes Kansas. There were murmurs, even as of a month ago when he wasn't in the portal, that Kansas was interested and he was interested. I don't know how true that is. So there's always been this feeling that Kansas is there. But the team to watch out for with the Keyshawn Hill sweepstakes to me is Arkansas. He mentioned Arkansas 3 times in the call that I was on. He was like, I have a lot of friends in Arkansas, blah, 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 blah. And I think when he was thinking of transferring last year, I think when he transferred to UCF before that, I think there was a good shot he was going to end up at Arkansas, but it didn't quite work out. But going back to kind of what I was saying, I think Hall is probably the premier target they can get. Obviously I would have loved if Kansas brought in Donovan Dent, but I get why Dent necessarily wasn't the right fit because he probably wants the ball in his hands a little more than Kansas wants him to have the ball in the hands. Hall is a guy who can fill in the scoring vacuum. We know he can score. His defense is not as good as you hope, but at the end of the day, and I wrote this in my story, the biggest thing is Kansas needs guys that can play both ways, but there's going to be 1 or 2 guys that don't play both ways. And if the 1 or 2 guys that don't play both ways, they better be exceptionally good at a skill that Kansas needs. I think Keyshawn Hall is exceptionally good at scoring basketball. He can be better than Zeke Mayo or Harden Dickinson in that sense with the right talent around him. And I think he can learn to play under Bill Self.
Well, Darren Peterson's going to need the ball in his hand too.
Of course.
And he's going to be a freshman trying to play Bill Self defense. So I'm with you. I don't know how much bad defense they can afford because you're going to have a freshman in there in one of those roster spots. Find all of Shreyas's following of this madness at the KC Star on his social page at SHRE98. Shreyas, good luck, Godspeed. I don't know what else to say. Enjoy it. I don't think it's enjoyable, but we'll just keep following along.
I appreciate you guys having me. Always fun talking to you guys.
There goes Shreyas Laddha. I don't know who would be on my wish list for KU. If it's not Flory, they need to go find a big. Maybe it's Quincy Ballard. I actually do think with his defense, he'd be a really good fit in Kansas if they don't get Flory back. All right. Stick with us. Sports Daily. Don't forget Royals at 12 o'clock. We're coming right back.